For more on the legal fallout from this tragedy, we want to bring in Neama Rahmani. He is a former federal prosecutor and president of West Coast Trial Lawyers, and he joins me now from Los Angeles. It's really good to have you weigh in on this. And look, everybody understands this was obviously a tragic accident, but even so, at this point, do authorities have to look at the fact that there may be some criminal liability here and that charges are possible?
No question, Paula. Even tragic accidents can give rise to criminal liability when there is gross negligence or criminal negligence. That's how you get manslaughter charges. So if Baldwin, the armorer, the assistant director, or any or all of those three were involved with loading that prop gun with a live round, that rises to the level of criminal negligence and is grounds for manslaughter charges out there in New Mexico.
Manslaughter is quite a serious charge.
Oh, no question. I mean, it's really just short of murder. Obviously, if there's some actual intent, if whoever loaded that prop gun with a live round intended for Baldwin to use it and to shoot it, then you may even get first-degree murder charges. That's premeditation. I don't think we're there yet, but manslaughter is certainly a very real possibility here.
Now, what has been so disturbing is the information from some who've been working on this movie that they were dissatisfied about safety protocols. When you hear that on a legal level, what is the production company's responsibility?
Well, when you're hearing about lack of safety and so forth, that is more of a civil matter. That's generally simple negligence if, precautions weren't in place. For there to be criminal charges, you need something more than that. You need that intent, that mens rea, that guilty mind. So if it was just lack of safety precautions, and that certainly is not something that anyone condones, you're looking at civil liability and a wrongful death lawsuit there.
But not in terms of the actual company itself. You're saying that they would actually have to look at the actions of the individuals involved. That beyond that, you're looking at civil liability, not criminal responsibility.
Yeah, generally speaking, it's very hard to charge an entity criminally. Criminal prosecution will focus on the actual individuals who were involved in arming this weapon and loading it with that live round.
We've seen obviously the heartbreaking photos of Alec Baldwin distraught, uncomprehending of how this could have possibly happened. And yet, as producer of the film, he could also be held legally responsible in some way, right?
No question. As an employer, he is responsible for the actions of his employees in the course and scope of employment. Now, again, we're talking about civil liability there. But what's very important, if you look at that search warrant and that affidavit in support of the search warrant, law enforcement specifically said that when Baldwin was handed the weapon, the assistant director said, "cold gun." And Baldwin's reaction afterward, it's all consistent with someone that did not know the gun was loaded. That's why I think he's going to avoid criminal liability ultimately, but civilly, another story altogether, and he will be responsible for the actions of his employees in loading that weapon civilly.
And before I let you go, the search warrant was wide-ranging. I think it surprised some of us that a search warrant even had to be issued. Are we wrong? It seemed to me that they would have already been on the crime scene and would have had access to everything that they wanted in terms of evidence.
Well, that's generally the most prudent course of action if you're law enforcement. You don't want to rely on folks cooperating. You want to make sure that you go to a judge, get that search warrant signed off so you can seize all the weapons, test everything, and any other evidence, it's not destroyed or disappeared. So you want to lock in that evidence right away. So it's really prudent that law enforcement went to prosecutors and prosecutors went to a judge there in New Mexico to get a search warrant right away.
Yeah, and from that search warrant, we certainly found out already some facts of the case. Neama Rahmani, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.